This video is sponsored by Deep Cut Studios. For a wide range of fantastic gaming resources such as battle mats, dice trays and pre-painted bases, check out the description below. Hi guys, welcome back to TNG Productions. My name is Tom, and in this video we're going to be looking at painting Orks or Orks in the most simple way possible using the Citadel Contrast range and a little bit of dry brushing afterwards. So this is not designed for pros, it's designed for people like me who have a little bit of an issue painting and want to get a good result quickly. So, as you may have seen these models before, in our flesh tones video, I started by using orc flesh on a grey sear undercoat. And those are the miniatures we're going to be using today, so you can check out that video, but in short, apply it like you would a shade wash, don't load up the brush too much. Throughout this video, as you can see, I'm using the Army Painter Regiment brush, which is a good, solid, basic standard brush, and then I'll move on to a dry brush later. Now, as you can see here, we moved on to the Iandon Yellow, which is a really, really nice colour. You don't have to paint your Orc armour yellow. There's going to be techniques for blues and blacks within this video. However, the yellow is kind of the go-to for the Orks in Warhammer Age of Sigmar, so that's the colour that I'm using. And you can see me applying it throughout, trying to make sure it doesn't pool up anywhere too much. I mean, I am going to be dry brushing it later, but you can see the finish here. Trying to keep the paint moving, and it gives this beautiful, vibrant yellow tone. Now, if you see my 5 top tips video, you'll know how much I love Black Templar. Now, that's going to go on all of our metallic areas. Again, applying it relatively generously and allowing it to kind of cover that grey sear kind of undercoat enough that it doesn't look too white underneath, but allowing the highlights to pop through. This is going on all of our metallic areas like the chainmail. It's going on the weapon handles. It's not going to go on the weapon blades, and you'll see why. I'm going to try and do something slightly different with that. But this is a really, really nice paint for just getting major coverage on areas. And if you don't even choose to kind of dry brush the silver afterwards like I will, you can leave it as the Black Templar and it still is a really, really nice finish. Now, as I keep mentioning, later on in the video, we're going to kind of stop at a tabletop ready point, which is just using the contrast paint. And then if you want to take it further, I'll show you what you can dry brush. But as you can see, really nice coverage, gives that kind of dark metallic tone, even though it's non-metal. Now, the reason I didn't do the blades is because Space Wolves Grey is rapidly becoming my new favourite for weapon blades. Now, you can dress this up as a metallic, but I actually quite like the idea of using it as like almost like a stone colour for Barbarian warbands. And if anyone's seen my Godsworn Hunt that I've used in the Quick Tips video and in the Flesh Tones, you'll be able to see that one of them's got a big axe blade that's been painted up this way. Now, you can see, really nice tone there, and if you dry brush a little bit of Dawnstone afterwards, it's really, really nice finish to it, and it contrasts well, pardon the pun, with the black. Onto the Wildwood then. This is useful for anything wooden, spoilers, that's kind of the clue in the name. However, for me, I'm going to use it on all of the kind of trousers, and these Orks have got like an undershirt underneath their chainmail. Some of them have poking through, so it'll be used for that. It's a really, really nice brown. You've got to apply it relatively thick compared to the others though, because if you apply it thin, you start to see the brush strokes coming through, and I'll explain that in a second when we come on to the blue one. That's probably one of the bigger issues with contrast paints. So, as I spin it around here, we go on to the Snakebite leather colour. This is a fantastic, ubiquitous straps and handles colour. You know, you could do it a lighter tone, but I'm using it on all the weapon handles here, and I'm going to use it on the straps that are on the back of the Ork and on his head. Now, Snakebite leather in particular goes on really nicely over the grey sear undercoat. It's probably one of the ones that I actually prefer going over the lighter undercoat rather than the warmer Wraithbone. But to be honest, any of these colours would work just as well over the Wraithbone. And if you want that kind of more goldeny yellow for the yellow armour, Wraithbone is an excellent substitute which you can use for that. But as you can see, just being really neat with my regiment brush here. You could switch to a smaller brush if you want to, but my whole aim with this video is to try and bang it out as quickly as I can, so I can just show people that, you know, it's possible for somebody like me who doesn't particularly enjoy the painting part of the hobby to do a good squad of these in a relatively short amount of time. And as you can see, the Snakebite leather's already picked out this lovely colour. Now, on to perhaps the trickiest part, or my least favourite part. This is the Leviathan Blue, which if you've seen my kind of blue summary of the contrast paints will know that I've called it my least favourite blue. Now, you could use any blue here, and actually it's one of those paints that the thicker you probably put it on, the better, even though it goes against one of my kind of tips with these contrast paints, because you rapidly see brush strokes. Now, it's not going to matter too much. I'm painting this in a rush. If I was you at home, I would use the contrast medium, 50-50 mix, and then essentially do 2 coats with it. That'll probably get a really nice smooth finish, as opposed to, as you can see here, slightly blotchy finish that I'm getting. However, because I'm choosing to dry brush over the blue and it's going to get quite a heavy dry brush, it's not bothering me too much here if I can see a little bit of the paint strokes. All I want is that instant colour and shade going on the mask here as well. So it's up to you what colour you could use here. If you're painting most of the Orc armour or Orc armour in this Leviathan blue, I would say maybe start using the medium and kind of double coat with the thin layers as opposed to bolting over like me. Moving on to Skeleton Horde here now. Skeleton Horde will be useful for your Oryx teeth. This guy's conveniently got a mask on, but you'll see some other examples. They've got all manner of accoutrement of skulls and teeth and bits around their neck, so you can easily slap this on and it'll pick out really nicely the colour. It's also quite a calm colour to go on, in the sense that if you overlap accidentally on something else, it doesn't overpower it too much at all. And with that in mind, you can now see me going to Agros Dunes. This is specifically just to show people in case they're painting these shades by, I think they're called the Iron Schools boys. If they're painting these models in particular, Agros Dunes is just great for the base colour. It's a nice, darker, kind of sandy Badlands colour. Which actually you could use if you wanted more kind of rotting teeth look, or you can even use it on the weapon handles as a slightly more tanned skin. So, just contrast. This is my table ready result so far. So as you can see, I personally am more than happy with this model to put it on the table as is. If you're starting with painting and you want to invest in 5 or 6 and you've got Orc army that you want to paint, this will get you a solid result, and a big squad of these together will look relatively nice. However, if you've got a bit more time and patience, you can move on to the second step, which isn't going to require anything any more fancy. This is just simply dry brushing. So I'm moving to a small dry brush here, and you can see me get most of the paint off, and I'm starting with the Flash Gits yellow here. I don't want to build up too many layers of different colours because I want this to be quick. And we're just going to go over, going against the grain, or against the angle, should I say, kind of a right angle to any sharp edges of this yellow armour. And you'll be able to see immediately on the armour joints, like the elbows and the hands, that yellow gets picked out and it brightens the armour up again. And this gives quite a nice clean armour look. Now, I'm going to dirty it up later, but if you want a slightly cleaner look to your armour, you could even use this for... is it the Space Marines, the Imperial Fists armor? That'd be really good as well. On to Snarsnick Green, that's a hard one to say on camera, for the flesh. Now, you could build this up again with layers, but I just want an extreme highlight really quickly, and you can see me. There's not really much flesh on this model, so you'll see in a second I'll pick another Ork out. I think it's Gerzag Iron Skull, just to show you the detail on the face as you apply this. So you can see he's relatively dark there, but a very quick dry brush going against the muscles, these facial features like the lips and the eyes and the scars and that, and you can see brightens him up really nicely there and gives a good highlight. Now, going back to the blue that I spoke about earlier on, we're going to go quite heavy on the dry brush here. I'm usually quite light with my dry brushing and kind of build it up slowly. With Cantor Blue, I'm going to actually not just apply it on the edges, I'm going to apply it to the flat surfaces of these armor plates to try and gently cover up the paint splodges or where the paint has pooled on the flat areas. Now, obviously, if you use the contrast medium and you've done too thin coats, you probably don't have this problem, but for me in particular, Cantor Blue is just going to start to even out that tone. I don't want to paint straight on it, because I don't want to lose any of the tone and where it was, but you might choose to, and you could put like a blue ink on instead. However, with the Altioc blue that's going to go on next, that will again gently go over the flat and the edges, focusing more on the edges of the armour, but kind of moving towards the centre to again give a bit more variation and tone. And with the Hoeth blue that you can see on the right hand side, that will be specifically for the edges of the armour to try and pick out a nice clean edge to where the armours are chipped and where they're damaged. Now again, this will leave quite a clean result to the armour, and again, in a second, we're going to try and dirty that up and make it look chipped. However, if you're using armies and you want that kind of clean look, you can use this paint and just leave it as is. The model's pretty much ready to go with those dry brushes, and it's picked up. There's only silver really to go on, which we'll do in a second. But the Hoeth blue, as you can see here, is a really, really bright looking blue in the pot, but actually as you apply it, it just gives that slight light shine, and again, specifically holding the miniature, so I'm looking down at it, like where the light would shine on it, and just picking out any of the raised details as I go along. Trying to keep not too much paint on my brush as I go on. Really, the Cantor blue is the only kind of thin dry brush you need to worry about, and just making sure I go against the edges and picking up the light as I see fit. Now, here we go, Dawnstone then. So you remember that that Space Wolves grey on the weapon shafts? A little bit of Dawnstone goes a long way here. I don't overload my brush too much, but this will pick up all the kind of jagged edges on the weapons. And actually, this is something you could use with any army. It gives a really, really nice effect. You could choose to dry brush this in a slightly darker grey if you wanted to go for a non-metallic metal look, or if you're going for the more kind of stony look like I am here dry brushing, you can see it just picks out the sharp edges again. This is taking no time at all. This per pot is literally a minute, if that, and you know, you could paint a full squad. On to Lead Belcher then. Now you could use any silver you want here. Lead Belcher's great for me because I like the kind of dark gunmetal look, and again, if you saw the 5 tips video, you'll know that I'm quite a proponent now of using Black Templar with a metallic dry brush over the top. It gives this really nice worn metal look, which is great for kind of barbarian armies, orcs, as you can see here, and anyone else who wouldn't have, like, you know, the best quality materials. And you can see going over the chainmail to pick out the links. Now, something a little bit different here. I'm going to use a slightly smaller brush. This is an Army Painter character brush. And I'm going to dry brush again onto the blue areas. Now, I'm deliberately kind of just going into where the nicks are in the armor. So where it's been sculpted for having chips, I'm just dragging my brush with a little bit of paint on to try and make marks where it looks like silver chipping. And I am also going over the flat areas. And what I do as I go over that is just gently kind of rub and spiral the brush. Now, there really isn't much paint on the brush here. And actually, as I hold it up to camera, you'll be able to see the effect. It's probably quite hard to see from this angle. It just gives the odd nick and chip. And as you can see here, just gives that kind of silvery battered tone. Completely optional for this part. However, again, it just gives that idea of this kind of battered armor and adds a bit of depth of detail. And you can see the shine on the blue there. Anyway, we're on to the browns now. Gorthor brown is my favourite choice. You could use Baneblade brown if you've got it in stock. Gorthor brown is just great. It's ubiquitous for going over most brown colours. Gives them all a unified colour. And again, one of my tips for you is to make use of dry brushes that can be used on large amounts of the miniature, because it ties it all together, because the contrasts do have a habit of being quite vibrant. Now, what I'm going to do here, I'm going to be very careful, and I recommend you start on kind of a small area of the armour like that you won't see, like the belly area here. I'm doing the same as what I did with the silver, so I'm putting a little bit of paint on a smaller brush, a character brush, and just gently swirling it and picking chips in the armour to try and make and batter down that yellow, so it looks slightly less bright and vibrant. And that allows the Orks to again look like they've been in a few battles. So you can see 4 of the models that have been completed. You can see the colours that have been picked up there. Grand total painting time, if I didn't have the camera in front of me, you're looking at maybe an hour to an hour and a half, depending on how quickly the paint's dry. I mean, I've got the camera lights, which is great, which kind of, you know, nukes the models really quickly. Gerzag, who you can see here, has got a few extra details. He's got gore-grunta fur on his shoulder, and all I've done is dry brush the Dawnstone over Black Templar on his cape to give kind of a battered leather look. But essentially all these other Orks here using the exact same paint scheme, and you can see that kind of slight dry brushing afterwards does wonders for making the flesh pop and the yellow, and that chipping effect, even though, you know, from the table level you're not going to see a lot of it, you can see plenty here. So hopefully these tips have been useful for getting your Ork army out. If you have got any questions, please do leave them in the comments below and let us know how you get on. Like I said, this is not designed for pro painters. This is designed for anybody who just wants to get a nice looking army out relatively quickly using contrast paints. So thank you very much for watching, guys, and we will see you in the next one.
What a video that was. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, check out this one because this is great, and check out this one because this is great as well. If you enjoyed those videos, there is a link in the description below to our Patreon page. If you want to support us, it's greatly appreciated. Thank you.